The following broadcast is a Nighthawk Network presentation. What's going on, my people? It's your boy E-Buck in the building, Nighthawk himself. Ready to talk to y'all about some sports on the Big Buck Sports Report. Man, oh man, I am so jacked up for this one. It is so much to talk about. So many things have went on in the world of sports just in the last 72 hours alone, let alone the last week or so. So it is much to get into. Let's just go ahead and jump it on off. First and foremost, got to start out the show by saying, finally, the championship has come back to Michigan. That's right, my Michigan Wolverines have done it. They have won the national championship. Congratulations to the Blue. Congratulations, of course, to Coach Harbaugh and the Michigan Wolverines, the 2024 national champions. Now, of course, we got to go here with it because you know there are some of you who are out there who will say, yeah, they won, but what about that cheating scandal, bud? Let's not forget about that. How can I forget? Some of y'all are not going to let me forget. Not at all, not for 1 minute. But I will say to you this. First and foremost, those games still had to be played, okay? Even if you were playing somebody in Madden and knew every play that they was going to play scripted, basically play for play for play, they still have to execute said play. You still don't necessarily know where they're throwing the ball to or who they're going to do with the defense and what happened. Bottom line is what I'm saying. If you even had that information to that degree, you still have to play the game. You still have to have the players talented enough to make those things happen. All that being said, if you talk and listen to a lot of the people that are part of college football, they will tell you that the advanced scouting rules, as they are stupid. Okay, there are many teams that do advanced scouting and different. Okay, now did they go beyond the realm of what they are able to do? If they did, they did. Understand that investigation is still going on to this day, but I still don't think it is enough to quantify this championship being tainted or asterisk or any of that other BS that some of y'all would like to put on it. They played the games, they won the games. They won all 15 of them. They are the national champion. End of discussion. We did it. We did it. We freaking did it. Go Blue. Now, of course, the next topic for discussion is, well, yeah, Harbaugh, you did it. Now what? Because, of course, that is the main topic of discussion. At least it was the Monday after the championship or the Tuesday after the championship. What is Harbaugh going to do now? Now, understand some of those decisions are being taken out of his hand, and some of them are being added to his plate. When you consider all the other things that have went on since the championship, just in these last 48 hours. Of course, we will talk about them a little bit later in the show. Now, of course, if you have been checking out the show every week or even every other week, you've heard me say time and time again, and I'm sticking to that prognostication that indeed Coach Harbaugh has coached his last game at Michigan. There's virtually no doubt in my mind. I'm about 96.9% sure at this point that this will be the last game Coach Harbaugh coaches at Michigan. Reason being, why? Why would you want to subject yourself to all the BS that has transpired over the years with so many people put him on the hot seat for all the years of people saying, he can't win the big one, y'all. He can't beat Michigan State. He can't beat Ohio State. How about now? How about now? He did all that. Did indeed. Well, he can't win the national championship. He can't find the right quarterback. How about now? How about now? Coach Harbaugh ain't been talking much BS about it, but I'm gonna talk that ish for him, okay? He has shut up all the haters, so much so that even the great Paul Feinbaum, Mr. SEC Harbaugh hater himself, had to give Harbaugh his props and admit that he was very wrong about him. That being said, we got my buddy Hugh checking in. I just wanted to check in before I go to bed, still feeling like crap. And unfortunately, because of that, we will not be hearing from our buddy Hugh this week. There will not be the Guru's football session. But fear not, we definitely going to talk NFL. And he will chime in where he can, at least until it's time for him to lay down. I talked to him earlier today. Yeah, that would not have been a good move today, having him go on, okay? That brother's not feeling well, and I can tell. So, yeah, chime in if you can, Hugh, but get some rest. You can always check back in, as you all can check back in on previous episodes by following that good old YouTube page of mine. That would be Eric Buckner, Nighthawk Network, Detroit, where you could catch this episode and other such previous episodes of the show. Also, fear not, yesterday Hugh actually had a little strength, so he was able to do another episode of his podcast. Oh, wrong person. I'm sure Rod will be checking in shortly. But no, his podcast that you can find on Spotify, that is The Guru's Perspective, where he gave his breakdown of last week's games and his thoughts on the NFL playoffs and the championship and such. So please check that out. You can go to Spotify and look up that right there. Look for that picture right there, that right there, The Guru Sports Perspective, and you will find him and he will break it down to you. And make sure you like and subscribe that thing and let him know what you thought of the episode, either on the episode on Spotify or in his comments on the good old Gram and Facebook, because you can find him there as well. On the Gram, he is Whoovi. That is WHOOVI. And of course, on Facebook, you can find him on the Sports Guru to You page. That is his blog page. Or Dale Lee. There's that Sports Guru to You page. Or Dale Lee, which is, of course, his Facebook page. That being said, back to the discussion about Harbaugh. Again, I honestly feel like this is his last game at Michigan. I'm not mad for any of it. You have came, you saw, you conquered. You did the mission. You came here wanting to bring a national championship to Michigan, and you did that. You leave with my full understanding and blessing, because I would not want to deal with the NCAA and that BS either, especially if all these opportunities are available to me in the NFL. If there was ever a time in the history of the NFL for Harbaugh to leave, it is now, because he is in the catbird seat. He is the most wanted coach out here, I do believe, for college or pro. So even if he does decide to stay by some miracle reason, and understand, if he does, that means Michigan, you want to pay that brother. Not like you paid him this year, understanding though that he did make out pretty well in terms of that. Let me break this down to y'all in terms of what Harbaugh actually made this year at his year at Michigan. Of course, his base salary was $7.63 million, one of the top 25 paid coaches in college football. But on top of that, he earned $500,000 more for winning the Big Ten title. He won, well, Big East title, that is. He won another $1 million for winning the Big Ten title game. He won another $500,000 for being in the championship and appearing in that. He won $1 million for his retirement fund, and also won another $1 million for winning the national title. So $10 million plus this year for Harbaugh. I say Michigan is going to cost you at least that much, plus even more incentives to get him to come back. So I think it's going to cost somewhere between $12 and $15 million for them to sign him. That being said, I say he goes to the NFL. What team will he go to? We'll talk about that a little bit later. But again, whatever team that is, it's going to cost them too. It is so good to be Jim Harbaugh right now. I know he's sitting somewhere smoking and drinking and having the time of his life with the phone blown up off the hook. I ain't mad at none of it. To the victor go the spoils. Hail to the victors. All right, let's got to keep it moving. So much going on. Can't just dwell on that. Speaking of college football and what transpired, that would have been the news of the week probably until what happened just lately in this evening, okay? Where it was announced that Nick Saban, coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide, he's hanging it up, y'all. He's retiring right now. Him done. That's it. He calling it a wrap. When I say I was stunned to hear this news, I was stunned to hear this news. Now keep in mind, my good buddy and Alabama love himself, Hugh Lee said he was not surprised to hear it. He actually kind of saw it coming. I myself, I did not. I did not. I was stunned by this news. But then keep in mind, y'all, Nick Saban is 72 years of age. Nick Saban absolutely has nothing left to prove to nobody about nothing. He is a Hall of Famer, okay? He has won not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, not even six. He has won 7 national championships, okay? 7 of them. 6 with Alabama, 1 with LSU. That in of itself a remarkable accomplishment. No doubt in my mind, the greatest college football coach of all time. Of all time, you heard me. Maybe one of the best coaches of all time, period. College or pro, in any sport for that matter. I have that high opinion of the job of one Nick Saban. That being said, I think he looked at all things. He looked at the fact that at 72, his days here on this earth, not as long. That his family is growing up, his grandkids are growing up, and perhaps he wants to spend some time with them. It's definitely not a money issue. That man has made more money than he probably could shake a stick at coaching football over the years. Keep in mind, he didn't spend time at Alabama, at LSU, at Michigan State, at Miami Dolphins for that matter. He even did a little stint in the NFL. Remember that? He is more than ready and should be allowed to ride off in the sunset in one piece, okay? That being said, I think this may actually start a trend to where now the older coaches are looking at the new way of doing things, particularly in college football and basketball with the NIL deals and the transfer portal, all that. I think he just looked at it all and said, I'm not signing up for no more of that. And would not be surprised if some of the other older statesmen of the game start to look at it from that standpoint. Would not shock me if people like Tom Izzo from Michigan State soon decide to hang it up. Would not surprise me if people like even the great Gino Auriemma at UConn Lady Huskies start to look at it as, okay, maybe not so much. Now I'll get into them a little bit later too. But yeah, I think now 2024 may be that time, even though we're looking to elect a leader that's going to be older than all these people, whether it be the current president or the previous president. All that being said, my good friends, I think he looked at it and determined it was time to move on and move forward. Now, of course, that job is open. And let the speculations begin, because absolutely one of the better jobs in college football to take over. Now, understand that because Saban is gone, that transfer portal going to open up a bit wider, because I'm pretty sure as soon as those kids heard it, it's 10 kids packing their bags right now. Saban ain't going to be here. I don't want no parts of this. I'm ass. Deuces. That's all I needed to hear. But also, remember, Alabama, one of the premier programs in all of college football. Facilities, top notch. The boosters, pockets deep, okay? Not to mention the fact that there are several people in the NFL right now that can claim, yeah, I played for Bama, and they too will probably support the program, both in here and in here. So I'm pretty sure Alabama could go swing big for the fences and get whatever coach they feel will make it happen. And of course, on top of that list of 2 very, very talented coaches that I think, one, of course, would be the great Dabo Swinney at the University of Clemson, who's already won a couple national championships himself there, but of course, is also known for being a previous coach and player at the University of Alabama. And another previous coach, one Kirby Smart, the two-time champion over at Georgia. I'm sure his name will be in the mix. Now, understand, both of these coaches are currently under contract at their universities, but I would not be surprised if one or not both have a clause saying that if that job ever became available at Alabama, I want it and I'm out. Either that, or I imagine Alabama's pockets so deep that they'll be like, okay, we will gladly help you buy yourself out of this contract so you can come on home to Alabama. Because, yeah, Clemson is good and Georgia is good and all of that, but it's not Bama. Okay? That being said, Harbaugh leaves, the Michigan job is open. And Lord knows, national championship club, granted, you're going to lose a lot of those players to the draft, a lot of seniors and juniors on that team, but nice little crop coming in. It is Michigan. Michigan kind of sells itself. How popular is Michigan? Hell, they won the national championship. They actually turned the Empire State Building in New York City, New York, maize and blue to help celebrate. You go downtown right now in Detroit, there are a couple buildings maize and blue celebrate. Michigan is a national brand. Alabama also national brand. So they can afford to be like, hey, who want to be here? We got the money. Come on down. So I'm very curious to see if that job becomes available at Michigan, and definitely what's going to happen with Alabama, what will transpire, who will be called, whose name going to be thrown in the mix. That in of itself, in these first 20 minutes, just a big discussion on college football, okay? We ain't even started on some of the rest of this stuff, y'all. I'm going to take a quick commercial break because I'm already getting dry. And when we come back, we're going to get into the NFL and talk about some of what's going on there with the playoffs, Black Monday, and some of the aftermath of that. Let's talk about that when we get back. This is the Big Buck Sports Report. I'm E-Buck. Let's get it.
Hello, hello, hello. It's another glorious day, my T-Sippers, and you know what time it is. I hope you have all of your comforts together because it's time to dish tea. And you're dishing darlings with Big Meat.
Can't wait. It's time to dish tea with Big Meat. It's time to dish tea with Big Meat. It's time to dish tea with Big Meat. It's time to dish tea with Big Meat.
Darling.
Shout out to my people's Big Meech. I was on the show last Friday. Thank you for letting me join. Hopefully we'll pop up again on you soon, my brother. Definitely a lot of good discussions had that weekend in regards to his show. Please check out Dishing Tea with Big Meech. And Big Meech's page is found on YouTube as well. That is Dishing Tea with Big Meech. Back to the show. We are now going to talk some NFL and what's going on there. Now, of course, normally this is when we would bring you the Guru's football session. But, of course, my buddy, the sports guru, Hugh Lee, feeling a little under the weather. However, if you definitely want to hear about his thoughts on last week's games, again, I implore you to check out the Guru's Perspective on Spotify. You can find that on Spotify, Guru's Perspective. He did break down last week's games and his thoughts on the playoffs. So if you want to know his own personal thoughts on everything, please check them out there. In the meanwhile, I will give you my thoughts. First and foremost, a lot of the games that were played Sunday, as you know, it was week 17. Half of everything was resolved, half of it was not. So some of those games were necessary to play. All in all, the games themselves, not so much for the most part. However, some very key injuries did occur, unfortunately, with some of the playoff teams. Let me talk about that first and foremost. Among them, A.J. Brown for Philadelphia, who, for whatever reason, just went into a nosedive. Remember, at one point, Philadelphia had the best record in the NFL. They were 10-1. They ended up finishing the season 10-7. Good enough to make the playoffs, but that's the wild card. And you know I'm very disappointed with that because I actually not only picked them to go to the playoffs, I picked them to go to the Super Bowl. And based on what I'm seeing these last several games, I can't see that happening right now, especially without their number one receiver, A.J. Brown, who may or may not play. And, of course, Devontae Smith out. He probably will not play either. Without those two and Jalen Hurts, who's been injured pretty much, I say for the good part of most of the year. They just have not said to what degree, but I think that brother been playing really, really hurt for a good part of the season. With them three out and some of their other injury people, I find it's going to be extremely difficult for them to win in here playoffs. Another key injury, of course, happened in our Lions game with the Vikings, where we lost Sam Laporta, the rookie tight end, who's definitely having a very good season, one of the best of any rookie tight end ever, in fact, when he broke the record for most receptions, I believe it was, by a rookie tight end. That being said, it's looking like he will not be playing this Sunday in our playoff game. Definitely a costly loss. I think it's one we can overcome, but it definitely would have helped to have him as a weapon. Understand that Jameson Williams was out last week also. Hopefully he will play this Sunday. We will definitely need him with Laporta being out. TJ Watt for the Pittsburgh Steelers, definitely a hurt. Okay. Amazing that the Steelers even made the playoffs. When you look at how they looked about 7-8 weeks ago with that pathetic thing they called the offense at the time. But of course, they fired the offensive coordinator, made some changes, end up swapping some people around the quarterback, and lo and behold, they in these playoffs. Mike Tomlin definitely should be given a lot of credit for what he did there. And I'd be hard pressed not to make him one of the lead candidates for Coach of the Year, considering the job he pulled off in Pittsburgh with that team. Considering they always had a good defense, but offensively they were trash. Basuda even. But still found a way to win 10 games. Now, of course, they're in the playoffs, but without their best defensive person, in fact, maybe one of the best defensive players in all of football, TJ Watt, is definitely going to be an uphill battle for them to climb in order for them to win this one. So that's definitely going to hurt them a lot, I think. Let's talk Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield got hurt in that last game of the season. Of course, they needed him to play, and they needed them to win in order just to get into the playoffs. So no problem with him playing. But, of course, now we know he has an ankle injury, and I'm pretty sure he is going to play. It is playoffs after all. But to what degree he is hurt, we will have to see. So these injuries definitely will cause issue in these here playoffs. Now, before we get to the actual matchups and whatnot, we got to talk about what happened the day after. Hell, in some cases, it wasn't even the day after, because as you know, certain coaches have already got to heave-ho before the season even ended. When you talk about what happened with Carolina and, of course, Oakland, and then there was the situation, basically them two. But also, later on that evening before the Sunday night, midnight sun, or however you want to put it, Atlanta coach up out of there. Okay. Our last memory of him is fussing at the other coach for scoring that not needed touchdown at the end of that game. Not that it mattered. He was fired regardless. We already know this. They probably fired him in the locker room for all we know. Him is gone. He should be gone. Atlanta, they really overachieved with what they did do with 17. They wasn't even that good. No surprises there. Then, of course, the next day on Black Monday, we did lose one coach. That would be Washington's coach, Ron Rivera. Sorry, Ron. You know it's time for you to go, bro. And the idea where you can't quit, you got to play it out and whatever. But if I was you, I probably already had all my stuff packed before that last game even jumped off, okay? You were done. We all know you were done. We all know it was time for you to go. The new ownership, they couldn't justify keeping you, man. Not with that record. 4-13, I believe they finished, or 5-12. Either way, he had to go. Him gone, and probably the quarterback, Sam Howell, he probably gone. And general manager, I believe, is going to stay. But, yeah, everybody else, they had to go. Had to go. Now, this leads to some of the surprises that happened the day after. A lot of people speculate that Bill Belichick would be gone on Black Monday. Lo and behold, him not gone. That's not to say he may not still go, but at the moment, him not gone. They say they're going to discuss and he's willing to relinquish some of his GM duties and all that. We'll see how all that plays out in New England. After all, that is a special case. Outside of the great Nick Saban himself, Bill Belichick probably the best football coach currently coaching in football. So you can't just up and fire him like that. That's just not a respectful way to treat the man who has won more Super Bowl as a head coach than any other. So that's that much. Chicago has decided to keep their head coach. I'm actually semi-surprised, keeping in mind that they did end up finishing the year 7-10, a lot better than what we thought they were going to do early on this season. And now the question, of course, becomes, we've kept the coach, we got rid of all the offensive coordinators. Are we going to keep Justin Fields? We should hear quite a bit about that in the next couple of weeks. So we have plenty of time to see how that works out in the Hot Stove League. Another team that decided their coach had to go, Tennessee. Mike Vrabel fired. I could not believe it. They fired Mike Vrabel, okay? A man who had a pretty decent record in Tennessee, although obviously the last couple seasons, not so much. But they did make the playoffs 3 out of the 6 years he was there. I do believe they made it to a championship game, I want to say, in one of those years. But when all is said and done, it wasn't good enough. No Super Bowls equaled no coach. There was definitely issues of brewing behind the scenes, particularly in terms of some of the personnel that was traded, that he did not care for those decisions made by management and ownership. That might have been part of the reason why they parted ways. In the end, just wasn't seeing eye to eye, so they let him go. That being said, Vrabel's a good coach. He's a good leader of men. I don't see him having any problem finding another head coaching job in the league. One of the openings definitely will probably be his when all is said and done. Now, of course, then came today and the big news that Seattle has decided to part ways with their coach. Well, at least in terms of him being a head coach in Seattle. Apparently, he's still staying on to be part of the staff for the team itself, basically bumping him up to the upper offices and whatnot, making him an advisor of sort, I guess. But from listening to him at the press conference this evening, that man did not want that. That was not his decision. That was management's decision. And because he loves football so much, he just wanted to be around it in some way, shape, or form. That being said, I would not even be surprised if somebody ends up picking him up, even at the ripe old age of 72, same age as Coach Saban. Because some people 72 is different than other people 72. And he may get another shot somewhere else. I'll be interested to see what happens with his situation. But again, I was stunned by that as well. So between the Saban news and the Vrabel news, and then that with Coach Carroll, I was like, man, I did not see any of that coming. And remember, we just into Wednesday. Will not even be surprised based on some of those moves if some other moves get made in the next 48 to 72 hours. And if that does happen, do believe you will be able to find that information on the Sports Guru to You page. That is Hugh Lee's sports blog page. He will have all the latest comings and goings of all the players and coaches in the NFL. He is big on NFL hot stove leagues. So as these things happen, he will definitely be one of the first people to know and to post them for you. Okay, now that we've talked about some of the teams that's out of it and looking to move on to other things, let's talk about the teams that's in it, okay? The teams that are actually in the playoffs. Let's look at some of them, all right? First of all, we got the Dolphins. They made the playoffs. They kind of limped their way in it, though. Remember, at one point in time, they were looking like the best team in the National Football League. High-powered offense. Defense starting to get it together. But these last several games, they've been having their struggles. And, of course, now they get to play the Kansas City Chiefs, who, of course, did win a division but did not play up to the standards that we used to them playing. And they get to play that game in Arrowhead, at least that game. And it is said that based on the projected weather for that game, it may be one of the coldest playoff games ever. And remember, we got teams like Green Bay and Buffalo. But they say the temperature is looking like it's going to be up under 0 at the time of the game when the Dolphins play the Chiefs on Saturday. Understand because of that and the fact that we know that oftentimes, if not almost all the time, when the Dolphins play in temperatures under 40 degrees, they do not perform well. Understanding that Miami is a whole different climate than Kansas City this time of year, it could make things interesting. Not to mention the fact that there are so many key injuries over there in Miami right now between the running back and some of the defensive people over there in Miami. I think even Tua's a little banged up. So it's definitely going to be an uphill climb. But also remember on the other side, Kansas City, not the Kansas City that we used to. Much better defense this year for Kansas City. But that offense, not quite what it once was. So it could go either way. I do believe KC will pull it off, though. So I'm going to go with them. On to the next Saturday game. We got the Browns who made it to the playoffs. And Lord knows that was the last team I thought was going to make it, considering all of the things that they went through this season. Remember, they went through not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 quarterbacks. Joe Flacco, the current starting quarterback for the Browns, is the 4th person to start at quarterback this year for them. And obviously, it was a choice that was right on time. Remember, about 2 months ago, that brother was on the couch, taking his kids back and forth to school. Wasn't even considering being able to play in the NFL this season. And lo and behold, here he is leading the Browns into the playoffs, okay? Yes, we now live in a world where the Cleveland Browns and the Detroit Lions, the 2 teams who at one point did not win any games in the season, the only 2 teams to ever pull off that miraculous miracle, are now 2 teams that are actually in the NFL playoffs. How about that? Anyway, those Browns are actually on the road, and they're playing, of all places, Houston. You heard me. Houston, Texas, where Michigan just got through winning the national championship, by the way. That same stadium. They are going to play there this Saturday against the Houston Texans. Remember, the Houston Texans were the number 2 pick in this year's draft. They had the number 2 and the number 3 pick. They end up being C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson, and now both of those 2 players are in the playoffs. Imagine that. Last year, I do believe they won 3 games, maybe 4 it was. And now, at 10 wins, not only did they win and finally win the playoffs, they actually won their division. You never know sometimes. You never know. But again, remember, just a couple years ago, the team they beat, Jacksonville, they had the worst record in the NFL, and they made it to the playoffs. Turnaround can be very quick in this NFL. It truly can. That being said, I'm hard-pressed to see them winning this game. I do believe Cleveland, with that awesome defense that they have, will find a way to beat them. But definitely give credit to Nico Ryans, the coach, and, of course, to C.J. Stroud, the former quarterback of Snoop Dogg's Pee Wee team back in the day. He is so very proud of him, and I ain't mad at that, even though, of course, he went to that school down south. About that, C.J., not so happy with you. But nonetheless, we got Browns, Texans. I'm going with the Browns on that one. We now get into the Saturday games, okay? The Saturday slate, 3 games on Saturday. First one includes the Steelers. That's right, the Pittsburgh Steelers. That team, again, we talk about how bad their offense was and how they somehow figured it all out, and now here they are in the playoffs, playing the Bills, who at one point was not doing so good, but finished the year very strong enough to win the NFC East and find themselves with a home game in Buffalo. Now, of course, if it's going to be that bad in KC, don't expect it to be that much better in Buffalo on Saturday. Considering what the weather's supposed to be like here in Detroit and Buffalo not that far from us, yeah, it might get real ugly there as well. So understand Pittsburgh is from Pittsburgh. it should not overwhelm them. But the Bills, on that hot streak of their own, I think they will find a way, especially without TJ Watt to worry about, to beat Pittsburgh in Buffalo and win that one. But I expect that to be a very, very close game, especially if the weather has anything to do with it. Now, of course, 4 o'clock game, we get the Green Bay Packers. How the hell they sneak in the playoffs? How did that happen? Understand, several of the talking heads, they kind of saw it coming. They talked about that early on in the season, that they felt like if Jordan Love could show that he can put it together early on, that they would be a threat not only to make playoffs, but actually win this division. They didn't quite make it to that, but they did play well enough down the stretch to make it into the playoffs. So kudos for that. Jordan Love, he appears to be the real deal. It seems like they didn't find yet another quarterback. I don't think he's going to be on the level of a Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers, obviously. But that brother is all right with me. And, of course, they have a young team, so they will only get better. But I don't think their time is now. I just think they kind of overachieved, and I think we will find that out on Sunday. I expect the Cowboys, who, of course, play very well at home, best record in the NFL at home of any team, that they will continue that and beat them at home. Of course, we kind of want that based on the next game, which, of course, will be the 8 o'clock Saturday night, on Sunday night game, actually. These are Sunday games, people, where they will be playing the Los Angeles Rams. At home, though. That's right, for the first time ever in Ford Field, a playoff game. Cannot wait to see it, okay? Downtown going to be rocking. Understand the weather may not be the best on Sunday. Based on the forecast, it's supposed to be pretty chilly. Some snow showers. I don't think that's going to matter at all. People will be ready. They will be in the stands. They will be at the tailgates at the Eastern Market. They will be all through downtown. They'll be watching at all the sports bars downtown. They will be at the casinos. Downtown will be jumping, okay? The city going to be rocking. We cannot wait. Let me say this, people. EB, predicted the Lions would make the playoffs. I said it from the very beginning. You can go back to the preview show that we did in the NFL. I told you I felt like they were going to win 12 games, and they did. And they were going to go to the playoffs, and they did. Once they got there, we would have to see what happens, and I still feel that way. Especially since they are playing the Los Angeles Rams, quarterbacked by one Matthew Stafford. Now, understand, out of all of the playoff matchups, this one got to be the most intriguing and maybe the most watched. Kind of hard to be pressed to say it would be, considering the damn Cowboys playing. But anyway, knowing that the NFL gained 8% more viewership this season in total, congrats to them. This is definitely going to be one of the most viewed games of the season by far. By far. Because that matchup between Matthew Stafford, who was traded for Jared Goff and ended up winning the Super Bowl with the Rams, and now coming back to Detroit in a playoff game, a lot of which people say here in Detroit, he would not be able to get to the playoffs with a Matthew. And now here we are playing his team and him coming home, so to speak. That being said, it's more on the line for both teams because, of course, you definitely got to figure that Jared Goff wants to win this one for his squad because they were the squad that gave up on him, and he most certainly feels some type of way. And he, of course, now has the home field advantage because he is home. Remember, Jared Goff himself went to a Super Bowl. Did not win, obviously, but he at least went to one, so he does have playoff experience, which definitely comes in handy with this younger team. We definitely have the better weapons overall on offense. They definitely have some good weapons on offense themselves. I definitely give them the edge at quarterback. Not a great edge, but an edge. The key to this game, of course, will be the defense. As you know, they have Aaron Donald, one of the greatest defensive linemen of all time on that squad. And our defense, suspect often. Though we do have Aiden Hutchinson, who has proven that he is definitely one of the better defenders in the National Football League, no doubt. But it's going to take a great game by him, okay? He definitely going to get to Matthew and get him down a couple times. And they definitely going to have to shut things down in terms of the secondary. Because with Cooper Kupp on one side and Puka Nacua on the other for the Rams, it's going to be a busy day for that secondary. And if they cannot slow them down, it may be a long day. On the other hand, I think they're going to have trouble with our running game. And if we can run it with both our good buddy, David Montgomery, and then, of course, Jamal Gibbs on the other side, if we can get one, if not both of them going, it's going to be a long day for them. I do believe Gibbs is going to be an X factor this game, not only in the backfield, but catching out of the backfield. Because, of course, we're going to need somebody like that to take up the slack that Sam Laporta being gone is going to create. So definitely looking forward to that game. I'm going with my Lions, but again, it's going to be a very tight, close game, and I would expect nothing different. And then, of course, there's the Monday night game, which is the team known as the Philadelphia Eagles, who limped them way into the playoffs against Tampa Bay in Tampa Bay. Now, understand if this game was in Philly, I would be going for the Eagles no matter what, because that crowd definitely would play a factor. But because this game is in Tampa Bay and probably will have almost the best weather out of any of them, not being Houston, because if I remember right, Texans do play in the dome. Then I definitely got to give a slight edge to the Buccaneers based on how bad Philly has been playing overall these last few weeks. And, of course, they are dinged up, particularly on offense, so that's definitely not going to help. And guess who's checking into the building? Nicole Mayo Corsi, also known to the world as Aunt Nikki. What's going on, sister? What's happening? Thank you for checking in. We are talking about your Philadelphia Eagles right now, so you are right on time. Do I think they will win this game? I say they can. I don't know if they will. It's going to be tough, okay? She's saying, hey, leave my Eagles alone. You know I'm down with them. Outside of my Lions, of course. I smurf with you and the Eagles. You know that. But I don't like their chances in this game. Because as I've said several times during the season, Jalen Hurts is hurt. And I think he hurt a lot worse than any report is saying, than anything that they are saying out of Philly. If you watch him play these last several weeks, you know. Our Sixers are on right now. She is checking out the Philly, and we definitely will get into some NBA talk later on in the show. Actually, if you are able to watch the show on ABC right now, we do have on ABC the Warriors and New Orleans. And, of course, New Orleans is whopping the floor with Golden State right now. I'm not surprised by that, but we'll get into that. I think you're saying he has been hurt for about 2 months. I completely and totally agree. He has been banged up for quite some time. And if not for the tush push, I don't even know if we at 10-7. I think the tush push actually won them a couple games this season for sure. But if not for that, I don't even know if they would have made the playoffs this year based on what we've been seeing, especially these last few weeks. So somehow, some way, they're going to have to get it together and find a way. Again, I expect it to be a close game, but I got to kind of go with Tampa on this one. I think they might pull it out. But they keep letting him play. When you pay that brother that type of money and he say he able to play, you kind of got to let him. He is the face of the franchise. He is one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. I get it. He wants to prove to everybody that he is worth the money. Remember, I mean, you know better than anybody some of your past history with Philadelphia and the quarterbacks. When you look at people like Carson Wentz, for instance, remember that debacle? He does not want to be seen in that light. He wants to show the people of Philly that he about it. Because you are from Philly, so you already know. Y'all don't play when it comes to your athletes. When they love you, you love them. And when they don't act right, they get treated like that bum Ben Simmons. I know you know. Remember, we is talking about the time that booed Santa Claus. We'll never forget that at all. That's why we love our people from Philly, because they are very much like people here in Detroit. We ride and die for our teams, and don't act up at the game, and you ain't from here, because you know how we get on. Don't forget me, I was at the Palace. Remember that? I know you remember that. Ben Simmons was a crybaby, though. Don't even get us started on Captain Kangaroo, as Pride likes to call him. Shout out to our guy Pride Hunter. That's a whole other story. He still ain't even playing now. Back spasms and whatnot. Talking about the ultimate thief in the NBA, that brother. That brother right there. So anyway, to recap, people, I do have the Chiefs winning against the Dolphins. I got Browns over Texans. I got the Steelers and Bills, with the Bills beating the Steelers. I got the Cowboys whooping up on the Packers. I got the Lions beating the Rams, and I got the Bucks beating the Eagles. Those are my picks for the playoff. That being said, it's still much more sports to talk about. We definitely gonna get into it, okay? Let me see. Where we going here? Where we going? What is next on the menu? All right, next we're gonna get into some NBA. Let's talk that. I know you have to go to bed. Understood. After the show is over, I'm definitely going to bed as well. Thank you for checking in, Aunt Nikki. Please make sure you check out Aunt Nikki on the show known as Dishing Tea with Big Meat. You can find her there. Then, of course, she has her own show, Let's Talk with Aunt Nikki. You're not familiar with that? Let me put you down right quick. I do believe we still have that promo in the system for my good sis Aunt Nikki. Yeah, there you go, right here.
Aunt Nikki. Let's talk. Let's Aunt Nikki. Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's talk. Aunt Nikki. Aunt Nikki.
With Aunt Nikki, you can find that on YouTube as well. Under Let's Talk with Aunt Nikki, she at some point, because she is a very busy woman these days, will find time to make some more episodes. That definitely looking forward to that. You may also be able to find her on some of the podcasts here on the Nighthawk Network, as she is going to work with us on some of those things in the near future. We appreciate that. When and if you can, sister. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, we're going NBA now. The big talk in the NBA over the last 24, 48 hours has been one Draymond Green. Draymond Green, who is a member of the Golden State Warriors. Of course, as they are playing right now, I do believe he is again not playing tonight, but he is back with the team after being reinstated on Saturday after what boils down to a 12-game suspension for his last indiscretion on the court. Now, of course, he has come out on his podcast and on pregame interviews talking about his situation and what went on. He mentioned that at one point he even considered retiring from the NBA altogether. Felt like it was too much. And he credits Adam Silver, the commissioner, for talking him out of retirement. Now, understand, even if they had not had the lengthy discussion that he said they had, even if he did retire in that moment, I don't think it would have stood. I think before the end of the season, he would have decided to come back. Honestly, I just feel like he was in his feelings at that moment, and that's why he went there. Also, here's my concern. The concern that I don't only have, several of you have, because you mentioned it in some of the comments on his videos. And of course, his head coach seems to have it because he spoke upon the situation himself prior to games the last couple of days. Draymond, have you really changed your ways? Are you able to tone down how you react in games? Are you able to not react to certain things in games? Can you tone down your play to where you are still an effective player in the NBA, but not a bully, not a buffoon, not embarrass your franchise and yourself with some of your antics, as you call it? I think you're capable of it, but of course, if you truly are, it makes us question why on earth you were like that in the first place. If all you had to do was reset to this degree and get it together, who knows how many more championships the Warriors could have won? We at least know they probably would have won one more, if not for some of the things you have done on the court that have cost your team not only games, but championships. This has to be the final time you are suspended for these types of things. Because, of course, if it happens again, particularly if it happens anytime in the first couple weeks you come back, you got to go. I can't even, in any type of conscience, as much as I like you as a player and to a degree as a person, fathom saying on these airways that I am with you and you should not be suspended if you do anything even close to what you have done in the past. If you do it again, you got to go. You got to go. And I don't mean just for the season. I mean, retire. Be done. I mean, get done from the league, okay? And if you feel like you really can't do it, then I suggest you do make the decision to retire. Because we already know you do have a career lined up for you as both a podcaster and, of course, as a prognosticator probably on TNT with that seat somewhere next to Charles or Shaq, wherever they squeeze you in at. If it is time for you to do that early, by all means do so. You will still make a nice amount of money. Not quite the 25 mil they paying you now, maybe, but pretty close to it, I imagine. And if you do a good job there here, they might even pay you more. You know, Charles, he's making a nice amount of money. I think he made more money being at TNT than he did in his career. I'm gonna safely assume that. So yeah, let's hope it works out for him. Let's hope it works out for the Warriors because they definitely could use him. They are not playing great basketball right now. They're definitely not playing great basketball tonight. And good luck to you. Now, speaking of people and coming back, we of course know that a few weeks ago, John Morant came back, and since his time in Memphis, they have gone 6-3, and they were looking pretty good up until a few days ago, where John Morant got hurt in a game, and unfortunately, we have found out that that injury he sustained to his shoulder is so bad that he is now out for the season. Man, that sucks. Just when it seemed like that brother was getting it together, this happened. Now, some of y'all, being the internet bullies that you are, have said it's just karma. This is what he gets for being like that. Don't nobody deserve that, man. Y'all wrong for even saying it, okay? Just foul individuals, some of y'all. Now, hopefully, he will be getting his surgery soon and getting to the rehab and whatnot. And we will hopefully be able to see that brother sometime next year in full health doing his thing because he was playing good basketball. Yeah, he was playing good basketball before the other times he got suspended, even. Definitely looking like one of the better players in the league. But we hoping that this does not lead to other problems in the process. Please make sure you stay out of trouble, young Ja, while you rehab yourself. Do not find yourself in bad circles and situations. Just concentrate on getting better and getting back to playing basketball. That's all we can ask of you, bro. In the meanwhile, Memphis, they still got people like Desmond Bain on the squad, Marcus Smart. They're going to step their game up big time if they want to have any shot of making these playoffs. But without Ja, they only going to get so far. Don't see them winning nothing without him. Sorry. Just don't. All right, let's move on to Tyrese Halliburton, the point guard for the Indiana Pacers, who unfortunately got hurt a few nights ago. Good news for him is that it's not a extremely bad injury. It's just a hamstring, grade 1. Understand I've had that injury, not in that way, mind you, but I've had that injury. It does take a good 2 to 4 weeks to start feeling like yourself. Him being a top tier athlete, me just being me, and not having any of the types of treatments that that brother gonna have, I would safely say give him about a good 2 3 weeks. He should be back. Hopefully, he'll be back to 100%. Probably a couple weeks after that. So it's not a complete loss for Indiana. They definitely will miss him though because he is the engine that makes that team go so fast, so hard. Matherin, the kid that comes off the bench for Indiana, I do believe he is the one who's going to step his game up in order to keep them afloat until he gets back. So good luck to them. Let's talk about Cade Cunningham. Yep, that Cade Cunningham from the Detroit Pistons, the worst team in the NBA. It hurts me to say that, y'all. Y'all know I am a Piston fan. I am a supporter of my home team, but we are God freaking awful. And the only thing that will make us worse is for us to not have our best player for the next 2 to 4 weeks. And it appears that is the case because he has a knee strain and he is out. He, of course, was out tonight. They play the second worst team in the league. That would be San Antonio Spurs. Let me do a quick check of these scores, people, since I'm sitting right here and I'm able to do so. Let's give y'all some quick NBA scoreboard so I can tell you how the Pistons made out. Anybody surprised yet? You know they lost, right? Of course they lost. And of course they lost to the Spurs. And of course they lost by 22. And of course they lost by 22 at home. This is getting ridiculous now, people. San Antonio only had 2 more wins than we did. Y'all do know that, right? They are not a good team either. The only thing that makes them even relevant is the fact that they have Wembanyama, and he's having a decent season. But of course, because of that, there was no way we was winning tonight. Thank God Wembanyama played so that at least the people that went to the game got to get their entertainment value worth. Because without Cade, that just make a bad team that much worse. It really do. He's the only person on the team that really looked like they putting forth a sincere, full effort night to night to night. And with him gone for the next couple of weeks, I think it only gets worse from here. It's bad enough that we didn't already broke the record for most consecutive losses in a row with 28. Well, the rate we going, it look like we're trying to break that record this season. Right now. Because let's see. After losing tonight, people, the Pistons have now lost, I believe, 6 in a row. So after losing 28 and then won 1 and then lost 6 more. We have the worst record in the league. We are now, what is our record now? Give me a second. Pistons are now a miraculous 3-35. 3-35. Ridiculous. Anyway, let's talk about some real teams, okay? Right now, in other games, we got the Pelicans whooping up on the Warriors. They already got 65 points. It ain't even halftime yet. Warriors looking real bad. Got a good one going with the Timberwolves and the Celtics. They going to overtime. It's 111 apiece. You got the Sixers and the Hawks. That one at the end of the third, you got 98-95 Sixers. That's a good game. You got the Thunder and the Heat going on. Thunder winning by 11. You got the Bulls and the Rockets. Bulls winning by 7. Kings, after beating up on the Pistons, then whooped up on the Hornets as well. They have beat them, 123-98. And then, of course, you got the Pacers, who were without Halliburton, still managed to beat those sorry Wizards because they ain't that much better than us. 112-105. And, of course, we got 2 more games this evening. We got the Jazz and the Nuggets. and the Clippers and the Raptors. And let's talk about the Clippers for a minute. Let's get into some of their news. As they have announced today that they have signed Kawhi Leonard, Killer Kawhi, that dude, to an extension. Now, I know some of y'all are saying, why? Why, LA Clippers, why would you sign somebody that is oftentimes injured to an extension when you know that's the only reason why we've been getting such good play out of him for most of the season? Because he has played for a good part of the season. Only missed a couple games so far. But now he done signed a 3-year extension for a whopping, wait for it, $153 million. So I believe after this year, that extension kicks in, and he'll be making $51 million a season. So, of course, the question is, how much of that $153 million will he actually earn? How much of it will he spend rehabbing whatever appears to be wrong with him? If we can get Kawhi to play like he's been playing this season for them 3 years, it's definitely worth it, because when healthy, he is definitely one of the top 15 players in the league, both offensively and defensively. He is a problem when healthy. Clippers been playing very well with him healthy. Now, if he becomes not healthy, them in trouble, him in trouble. And remember, he is one of the 3 other people in that squad that are looking to get extended. Because I do believe we are in the last year of the contract of Russell Westbrook. We are in the last year of the contract of James Harden. We are also in the last year of the contract of Paul George. And all them brothers already make a ton of money. So in order to justify re-signing all of them to the type of deals they would want, they're going to put up or shut up. So I myself say I would not smurf with any of them other contracts till the end of the season. If they don't at least make it to the conference playoffs, and then the Western Conference playoffs, some of y'all, if not all of y'all, gotta go. The only reason why that's probably not going to happen is because, remember, the Clippers, I believe, next season start in their brand new arena, the most expensive arena ever built for any team in the history of the NBA. Remember, Steve Ballmer, is one of the richest owners in the NBA. Him got it like that. So, yes, he will pay the luxury tax if necessary, if it's going to bring him a winner. Because he is tired of being the Lakers' little bro. But again, it's put up or shut up time for the Clippers. Y'all want to make y'all money? Keep winning. And make sure that continues in the playoffs, especially if your name is James Harden. Because you have a tendency to disappear in the playoffs. Milwaukee, what's going on with them? They're not playing so good lately. Don't know why. I know Giannis ain't been happy. He has definitely voiced his frustrations about how they've been playing lately. Scoring, not an issue. Milwaukee can definitely score, but they are not the defensive team that they have been in the past years. They are most definitely missing Drew Holiday right now. He was a defensive anchor for them, okay? And they also are not getting the defensive play out of the Lopez brothers that they are used to getting from them over the years. They have not been as defensively dominant, particularly Brook in the Lopez, okay? Giannis is still Giannis. He's still doing Giannis type things. You got Dame Dollar, that brother right here. He is playing well. He has been kind of in and out the lineup with little nagging injuries, but that's to be expected from an older Dame Dollar. But when playing, is usually playing relatively well. Bottom line, though, in the East, they are going to need to have that defense on point if they are going to beat teams the likes of a Philadelphia or Boston and make it to the finals. If they don't get that together between now and the end of the season, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. They'll make the playoffs. I mean, the East still the East. But without the goods, it will not be good. So hopefully that lit a fire under them. What Draymond, well not Draymond, what Giannis said, and that they get it going. Anyway, that's what's going on in the NBA, man. Got to keep it going. Keep it going. Let's talk a little tennis, okay? Australian Open starting, I believe, either this weekend or early next week. The favorite to win on the women's side won Coco Gauff. Remember that kid? Y'all remember Coco Gauff? I do believe we have her in the system. Don't we got a picture of young Coco? We sure do. There her go. She was the highest paid female athlete in all of sports last year. And coming off of that remarkable 2023 season where she won the U.S. Open and a lot of money in between, this should be her year. One of the people that stands in her way is Naomi Osaka. Y'all remember Naomi Osaka? She was the young lady who had won a few tournaments and then was having issues with dealing with the press and her mental health and whatnot, stepped aside from the game for a little while. And during that time, decided to become a mom. And being a mom has inspired her to come on back out and do her thing. Y'all also got to remember that famous match with her and Miss Coco Gauff in the U.S. Open a few years ago where they played and Naomi beat her, and then the epic press conference and the gamesmanship and all of that went on at that particular press conference. Loved that for her. And then, of course, Coco gave her flowers when she won at the Open. So, yeah, they have much respect for one another. And I do believe that will carry over. But that being said, you definitely want to see a final where Coco Gauff plays Naomi Osaka in the Australian Open. It might actually bring some eyes to that because, of course, out of all of the tournaments, that's probably the least watched of all the tennis tournaments of the majors, that is. Pretty much because of the time that the Australian Open is playing in Australia as opposed to here, and just not quite the fanfare of a Wimbledon or obviously a U.S. Open. So hopefully we will get that matchup. Otherwise, not looking good. Understand that on the men's side, Rafael Nadal, one of the best players of all time, has announced that he is withdrawing because he is injured yet again. I do believe this is the last year we will see Rafael Nadal play tennis, that this is probably going to be it for him. Hopefully he will be healthy in time to play in the French Open, the next major, where he has dominated over the years. Perhaps win at least one more Grand Slam title on his way out the door. But I definitely think this is winding down for him. But anyway, Australian Open next week for you tennis fans. Check it out. Got a little hockey news for you. In hockey, Bedard. Y'all know who Bedard is? Bedard is the next great one, they say, okay? He is the number one pick in this year's draft who played for Chicago Blackhawks up until a few days ago, but unfortunately, he got hurt kind of bad. He is now out for at least the next 4 to 8 weeks with some face issues. Jaw, I believe, was broken. Not so good. Not so good. Understand that Chicago, one of the worst teams in the league with him. So without him, probably not going to be winning much. So for you degenerate gamblers that like to get your gamble on, safe bets, pretty much should pick Blackhawks to lose most of the games that he's not going to be in until he comes back. I think that's a relatively safe bet, unfortunately. Meanwhile, my Red Wings, they kind of like middle of the pack. I believe, 60-40, something like that. They are in the playoffs of today. The playoffs started. So hopefully they will continue to ramp it up. They've been doing pretty good the last week or so at least. So kudos to them. Keep it moving. Keep it pushing. Keep moving forward, my friends. I do believe this is the year we make the playoffs again and start to climb our way back into Stanley Cup contention. I don't think we win it this year, obviously. But this will be nice for us to make the playoffs and show the progress. That part. All right, what else we got? All right, I got a little golf news for you. How about that? I got some golf news for you. Tiger Woods, the Tiger Woods, announced last week that him and Nike, them done. I can't believe what I'm saying out my mouth either. Tiger Woods and Nike no longer contend with one another, have broke ties, have stopped working together after 27 years. Understand, we ain't talking your normal Nike deal. When you think of Nike and brands in Nike, you think of two people in particular. You think of the great Michael Jordan and the Jordan brand, and you think of Tiger Woods and Nike. The Nike hats, the Nike golf shirts, the Nike golf clubs and balls. That's all Tiger Woods, y'all. Tiger Woods probably have made a good $300 million smurfing with Nike over the years. It is not said why they have split ways with one another, but Tiger did announce on, I believe, his X page that he definitely has more to come, something coming up. Understand, Tiger Woods and golf, money. All those three things just happen naturally. Tiger Woods is in your tournament automatically makes more money. Tiger Woods is in your tournament, it gets more television exposure. It gets more press exposure. It gets more notoriety. You get more famous people popping up on you if Tiger's in the building. That is why they have been desperately trying to get Tiger Woods to play at the Rocket Mortgage Classic. I really hope that he is able to do that this year. It's going to make that off the hook up here in the D. Tiger Woods in the D would love to see it. But in the meanwhile, Tiger Woods is saying he'll probably play again next month. His goal is to play at least one tournament a month this year. I'm hoping he's able to accomplish that. Definitely would be nice if he is able to win a couple more before he shuts it down for good. Remember, Tiger Woods nearing the 50 mark, at which time he could enter and play in the senior league. Is that something that would interest him? Also understand that his son, Charlie Woods, is becoming quite the golfer in his own right. Don't know what happened with him and Nike. Because of what happened, would that mean that Charlie probably would not smurf with Nike either when he gets to that point in his career? The new deal, who's it with? Is there a new deal for that matter? Has he set something up with Adidas or Reebok or New Balance? Is there a whole other new shoe company? Because keep in mind, that would be the best thing for any new up-and-coming shoe company or golf apparel. If Tiger Woods attaches his name to it, maybe he has some all his own where he owns the complete and total rights. If anybody could pull that off right now, it's Tiger Woods. In the end, there's still money to be had, and Tiger definitely will be making it. His name is money, okay? Him, golf, money. Just think that. So whatever it is, we will find out, I'm sure, sooner than later. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm down with it. Tiger Woods the person, but Tiger Woods the golfer, I definitely smurf with. No doubt. That is that much. Okay, let's go a little NCAA. Let's talk about that. Like I said, there's so much going on in sports right now. I'm surprised I haven't got this much of it in. Let's talk about what's going on in college basketball with the men. Last night, for the first time in over 50 years, the number one team in the country, that would be Purdue, and the number two ranked team in the country, that would be the Houston Cougars, both lost same night to unranked opponents. First time that's happened in 50 years of college basketball. That's a lot of people. We talking what, 1970s? Wow. But yeah, both of those teams, they lost last night. Now, their losses were different. Don't get it wrong. On the one hand, you got Purdue, they lost, and they lost handily to a Nebraska team who was actually pretty good. Good record Nebraska has. They lost to them in Nebraska. You then also have Houston, who lost last night. They lost to Iowa State and Iowa State. So, yeah, they lost on the road, both of them. But the Iowa State and Houston game much closer than the Purdue game was. How did Purdue lose? They lost the way that pretty much any team that is able to do it from this point forward the rest of the season will beat them, which is to neutralize Mr. Edey, their big man, their 7'4" tall center who has been dominating most of the season. They found a way to neutralize him and to hold him to under 20 points and to have him in foul trouble most of the game and basically just frustrate his life, okay? They hacked him up, they beat him up, they double, triple teamed him, and most of the night it worked pretty well. And because they were able to do that, they neutralized him and were able to beat the rest of the team because without him doing his thing, it does not make them nearly as effective, okay? So not only did Purdue lose tonight, I think it's going to be a few more games in the Big Ten and soon that they will end up losing because now the formula is out there. As far as Houston goes, Houston has been overachieving. I feel like they play very good defense under Coach Sampson, but they don't have like top tier, soon to be super lottery players on that squad. They're just a very good cohesive unit and play as such. But now that they are playing in conference, I see them losing a few games. But bottom line, at number 1 and number 2 for the moment, I don't see either one of those teams being your eventual national champion. Just like last year, it's not any team that's going to stick out and say, we is it and everybody else is behind us and good luck. I don't see that on the men's side of the equation. On the other hand, as we now talk about the men and not having any of the people in the top 25 with undefeated records now after last night, on the women's side, you do have 3 teams in the top 25 that are undefeated. That is, of course, the number 1 ranked team, which is South Carolina, the number 2 ranked team, which is UCLA, and the number 4 ranked team, which is Baylor, all undefeated up until this evening. Now, I do believe Baylor played this evening. Let me check these scores for you guys. And also, I must point out that my UConn Lady Huskies won tonight. Very convincingly, by the way. 85-41, although they have issues, and we're going to talk about them in a second. Let's see. Baylor, number 4 ranked team. Not going to win tonight, y'all. I believe, in fact, it is over. Yes, it is official. They have lost tonight. Baylor Golden Bears, ranked number 4, with their first loss of the season. They lose 87-66 to the Kansas City Lady Jayhawks. They lost 87-66. Yeah. Baylor, they are a good team. I don't see them winning that championship. I'm not surprised that they are lose or that they lost because it was bound to happen. In the meanwhile, Purdue is winning. That's the number 3 ranked team with, of course, that kid, Kaylin Clark, the best college basketball player, men or woman-wise, right now. She is the best college basketball player, period. No doubts, without question. How good is she? She, of course, is leading the nation in scoring. As I'm checking out the box score right now, they are winning by 23. Miss Clark this evening for the Iowa Hawkeyes currently has 26 with 10 assists and 10 rebounds. So she done messed around and got a triple-double. She clowning, y'all. She clowning. She is the number 1 player in the country. She will be the number 1 pick in this year's WNBA draft. Again, Indiana Fever having that number 1 pick. I'm sure they cannot wait to have her. Now let's talk about a team that's a little bit further down in the rankings. Not Stanford, which is ranked number 7 this week. And of course, no, they ranked number 8, actually. Not LSU, that's ranked number 7. Playing good ball, but still saying behind the scenes, it still may be a little issue with Miss Angel Reese and her head coach and whatnot. Those rumors still kind of out there. But anyway, got to talk about my UConn Lady Huskies, currently ranked number 13. Playing good ball for the most part, now that they're in conference, have beat 2 ranked teams in the last 3 games. But, of course, have problems. And those problems are injuries. The same problems they've had not only this year, but last year and the year before. Now, again, I think me and Hugh both talked about this at one point. We definitely got to concern ourselves with whatever the conditioning program is over in UConn with the women. Okay? Because I'm just not understanding how so many of them find themselves hurt during this time of year. Right now, you have Ja Edife, the promising young freshman, out for the season with Achilles. You got Ayanna Patterson out with the season with a knee. Of course, you got AV Fudd out with a knee for the season. You got Mr. Sharm, and I don't know what her issue is with the headaches and the neck and the head. I think hers may be a whole different issue, and I wouldn't be surprised. She's just done. And then, of course, we know what the situation was with Paige Beckers the last couple of years. Fortunately, she has been healthy. But, of course, I'm concerned because after 2 years of getting hurt, I really hope that don't happen to her now. Because, of course, if it does, UConn is done. They may already be done. But without her, they're done. And like I said, the injury bug hit Adrian Griffin yet again. She's been hurt 2 of the last 4 years for UConn. And now it was announced today that she's out with a knee injury. And she is done for the rest of the year. So it's really hard to see them go through that. Remember, I'm used to the UConn that dominates and goes undefeated and blows out all their opponents by 40 and 50 points. This is not that UConn team, okay? Granted, they played a very good non-conference schedule, which led to them losing those 3 games. Their conference not quite as good, so I see them winning most of those games, but understand they still have teams like Notre Dame and South Carolina to play before they get into the tournament. And based on what I see right now, I don't see them beating either one of those teams. In fact, that South Carolina game might get ugly. It could get very ugly. Because with that lack of post play in particular, and that South Carolina team, yeah, they might get whooped on. But anyway, I still would say overall the women's game more entertaining, a lot more competition from conference to conference overall on the women's side than the men's side. But I definitely say that right now, somebody in that top 10 for the women are definitely the champion, if not the teams on that top side. So I say right now, we're looking at either South Carolina, UCLA, LSU, somewhere in there is your champion at the moment. So, yep, that is that. Okay, I think I got through most of it, y'all. We covered mostly everything. If there were other sports that you wanted me to talk about, I didn't get to them. I'm sorry. If you are a NASCAR fan, we ain't talk about NASCAR and what's coming up with that, I'm sorry. If we ain't talk about your volleyball team or your soccer team or whatnot, again, I apologize. But we got in what we could get in. And I thank y'all for tuning in. If you check this out later on in the rebroadcast, by all means, please let us know. Keep in mind, we were on Instagram. I never even bothered to check if anybody even checked in on Instagram, did they? They did not. They did not. At least they did not leave any comments. If so, and I wasn't commenting to you, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But anyway, thank you guys for checking out Big Buck Sports Report. We appreciate you here. Please get better soon, Brother Hugh Lee, and we will catch you on the flip. Until then, y'all be blessed. Don't stress. Let the Lord do the rest. Remember, sports are supposed to be fun. Let's have fun with them. Again, congratulations to my Wolverines. Let's go blue. Looking forward to my national championship gear that I will pick up sooner than later, hopefully. And we will catch you guys next week for the Big Buck Sports Report. Until then, still no outro, y'all. So y'all know what that means. No outro means double intro. Let's play that boy. Where that? Let me find it. There it is. All right, y'all. Y'all know how I do it. Fingers, feet.